Yo, what's happening, guys? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review, and would you believe it, it finally happened. Dragon Quest XI has been confirmed for the NX. So how crazy is this? I know it's something that a lot of us knew was bound to happen. A lot of people have felt like this has already happened when last year at a convention, I can't remember what convention it was actually, I feel kind of silly, but some of the Final Fantasy and Square guys were on stage talking about Dragon Quest XI, and when they brought up this game, apparently it was at that time mentioned it was coming to the Nintendo NX, but then of course we know they ended up retracting that statement almost immediately, I think later that same day within a couple of hours. But what's happened now is the creator of the game, Yuji Horii, recently confirmed in an interview with Nintendo Dream that, yes, there is an NX version of this game on the way, which is crazy. You know, when I discussed the game over the last couple of weeks in some of the videos, I mentioned how, you know, we know this game is probably coming, but it hadn't been officially confirmed. When they had to retract that statement, I had to take that as the actual current fact of the game in the situation, which was that we haven't confirmed the game. Maybe we're going to make it, maybe we're not going to. We had a Freudian slip on stage where we mentioned the game coming out for the system, but it's not yet, so no one looked too deeply into it. And to me, that was what I was taking as law, even though it was so obvious that, yes, they probably were working on an NX version of this game. Now we finally have, courtesy of this Nintendo Dream interview with the series creator, the official confirmation that the game is coming, and I think that's pretty cool. I saw a comment on one of the articles about this that I thought was really interesting. It's funny how this game literally went from being the first game officially confirmed to the NX to now the fifth. So as I said before, it's pretty interesting when you look at the fact that with the exception of Zelda Breath of the Wild, an NX version of that game, none of the officially confirmed games for the system so far are actually first-party Nintendo games. They're all third-party games, you know, like Sonic and Dragon Quest and the like. Just Dance, of course, everyone's favorite game we know coming to the NX. Pretty interesting stuff, you know, and I talked about this as well, made a video about a month ago discussing how it's interesting that mostly third parties are announcing NX games, not Nintendo, and this is all happening before we've even seen the system, and Nintendo has actually given us the information. What's unique about Dragon Quest XI is some of the details about all the different versions of the game. You probably already know this stuff, but there's officially 4 different versions of Dragon Quest XI, as weird as that is, and bear in mind, I say this all as someone who's never played a Dragon Quest game. Like, I mean, I think it looks neat. I love that Akira Toriyama has done the character designs for most, if not all of the games, because I am a Dragon Ball geek for life, and I just love the fact that his character designs have made it into these games. It almost makes me feel like I'm, you know, looking at a pseudo Dragon Ball Z universe, and I just think that that's kind of, you know, that's so cool. But what they're doing with this game as far as the different versions, really weird, but pretty interesting. There's the PlayStation 4 version, which is probably like the basic actual console version. The now NX version, which I think they have confirmed to be in some way different from the PlayStation 4 version. I think they said it's going to look different, or I don't really know. There's going to be some variations between those two console versions. And then on the 3DS, there are 2 different versions. One that runs in 2D and one that runs in 3D. Now, this was really weird to me. When I first read this, I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because doesn't every game do that? You either turn the 3D on or you turn the 3D off. But apparently, what I was able to glean from the little bit of information from the interview where they talked about this is I think it's a completely different build and graphical style. So what it sounds like, and I could be wrong, but what I was picturing in my head is the 2D version was going to play more akin to the old kind of top-down 2D 16-bit games like a Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana or A Link to the Past. Similar to what, this is a lame comparison, but just think of the visual style, not the gameplay style, but similar to how a lot of these Clash of Clans and Clash of Kings or whatever, these really weird mobile, free-to-play strategy games kind of happen on your mobile devices. Almost like it might look or play something like that, and then the 3D version would play more like an actual 3D Dragon Quest game or a 3D action RPG. Even like the Dragon Quest VII update that they made for the 3DS, or the way like Majora's Mask and things like that look. So really interesting that they are releasing, it sounds like releasing 2 completely separate purchasable versions. You can either purchase the 2D version on the 3DS, or you can purchase the 3D version, and they're totally different builds. Now, what they have confirmed is across all 4 builds of this game, it is the exact same story. Through that, they don't want to release any one version that might be complete already, probably the 3DS versions, early, because story spoilers would happen. So I do think that it's really interesting to imagine the 100% same story, the same character progression, the same character arcs of what the heroes and the antagonists are going to go through and what the end of their journeys will be like, and maybe even what the dialogue is going to be like, but you're going to experience it through 4 completely different playstyles of game. I think that's awesome because what it does, and I don't even think this was their intent, but for me, I'm now more interested in playing this game because an NX version will be coming out, and I'm curious how it's going to work with the NX. But now what's happening is I might want to consider playing more than one version of the game because I can experience the same story through completely different means. And I don't know why, but to me, that becomes very interesting. And if other games and series that I really loved starting doing that, my wallet is going to hate me. If the next Metroid game comes out and there's, well, that's not a good example because I would buy any version of a Metroid game. I'd have to think of something that I wouldn't necessarily play all these versions of. Like, let's say Gears of War 5, where I love Gears of War, but I'd only really want to play just one version of Gears of War 5. But let's say there were 3 different versions of Gears of War 5 on different platforms that all had a completely different playstyle, but we're still telling the same story. I'd be like, wow, like I kind of want to do that. Like I'd play the console, balls out shooter version, which is what Gears of War is supposed to be, and maybe there's a more story-heavy drama version that is more about dialogue and less about shooting on like the PC or something. It'd be like, well, I would probably try that. I think I'd be really curious to do that. So very interesting what they're doing here. The real question is when you consider the NX version of Dragon Quest XI, again, a series I don't know much about, like I said, other than the character designs and that it is mega popular in Japan. It's tough because, like, I like JRPGs. I shouldn't say that. I should say I have liked JRPGs in the past. My absolute favorite is Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube. That game blew my mind. Still one of my top 3 or 4 favorite RPGs that I've ever played, probably. Chrono Trigger, of course, Chrono Trigger isn't really JRPG, or maybe it is, I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I've never really been a big Dragon Quest guy, but I'm still very excited for this game, and what we're curious about is how it will work with the NX. Is this going to showcase whatever unique ideas that the NX actually has in place? Is it a unique controller? Is it a weird online integration, system or infrastructure that it's going to take advantage of? Is the handheld hybrid sort of handheld screen thing part of what the NX is? And if so, will Dragon Quest XI be a game that uniquely utilizes what that's supposed to do and how it's supposed to make gaming better? Obviously, we don't know because not only do we need to see more on Dragon Quest XI, but we need to see the goddamn NX. So that's another thing holding back the level of speculation we can have. But I just thought it was cool that we now have officially the 5th confirmed game. It's another third-party game, but it's a game that we all basically knew was coming, and I think it's great news. Maybe I won't even play it. I don't really know. I want to see more about it. Basically, I'm only interested in the game now because an NX version is now coming out. But what's going to be really crazy to see is what this game will be like on the Nintendo NX once we see the system, and how it's going to differ from its console counterpart on the PlayStation 4. I would wager that we'll probably see Dragon Quest XI showcased at the NX reveal whenever that happens and however that happens. I don't think we're going to see like Just Dance or Sonic or anything, but we're definitely going to see Zelda showcased at that, and we're also going to see Dragon Quest XI. I feel like Dragon Quest XI makes sense. It was the first game that was ever uttered as a potential game for the NX, even though they had to change their mind. They had to change their tune right afterwards. It was still a game that was talked about before any other game. It seems like one of the first games probably that was ever in development, that maybe not by Nintendo. So I feel like that's what's going to happen. And maybe I'll make a video soon discussing what games might actually show up at the reveal event. That might be fun, and I feel like people would probably be into that. But long story short, I think we're definitely going to see Dragon Quest XI at the Nintendo NX reveal event. It's officially the 5th game confirmed for the platform. Another third-party game. Lots of good stuff happening here. I'm not a huge Dragon Quest fan, but I'm very excited for this news and information. And I'm willing to bet you are too, but I don't really know. So you should tell me, what do you guys think about Dragon Quest XI finally being confirmed? I know most of us treated it like it was confirmed back in September or whenever the hell that happened last year, but now we actually have word from the creator of the series. Yes, a 4th version is coming to the Nintendo NX. Do you think we'll see it at the reveal event like I do, or do you think we might not see it till sometime much later next year? Share your thoughts about all this crazy NX stuff below. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video.